Yes, you're watching the South Australian Sports Show now, Poppy, the power of the mind. No doubt it's an area that everybody's trying to get their way into. We've brought an expert into the studio. Jenny Williams, of course, got her book out, Best on Ground Performance, The Master. Jen, how are you?
Good, really good. How about you guys?
Very good.
I'm going okay. I'm going to ask you a few questions about this book. I love this book. Think, Prepare, Play Like a Champion.
Yes.
I've got some questions.
100% sure you're not mentioned in there.
Oh,
because the bit champion.
He's trying to say his photo's in there, Poppy. That's what he's trying to say, yeah.
No, I just put the champion bit was there. Anyway, let's get on with it. Now, Jen, I'm interested in this. Of course, the AFL draft has just been. Not many South Australians in the AFL draft. Do you have a theory on why that may be?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When I ask athletes, the first question when they have to talk about themselves is being modest means you sometimes miss out. And the answer to that is true. So in other words, if you do not promote yourself or you do not actually say, we can do this. So if I'm talking about things, people go, isn't that big-headed? And I'll go, well, if I've spent the time, energy, and I've actually done the work, then I should say, yes, I'm good at this. So if you ask me about what I do, I'll say, yep, I'm really prepared. I think I'm great at it. Ask me about baking a cake and I'll say I'm absolutely terrible. But our problem in South Australia is, I think for the last 10 years, we've been apologetic, we've been on the back foot, and almost in every sport, we keep getting interstate or international people to fill in our teams to say, now we're going to be great. And it worries me because we have great athletes here, we have great minds, we have great mentors, but everyone seems to look to the eastern states to go, oh, they must be better than us. They're not. We need to start promoting the locals, and familiarity is the other thing. If most of the people who are doing the selection are from Victoria, they get to see the Victorians the most. They actually see most of their games, go and do that, and you even get to chat. So if Poppy and I know each other, and he's one of the guys coaching, and he goes, oh, I've got these 3 blokes, they're really good. I'm likely to go, oh yeah, they are. It's called confirmation bias, and again, it's in my book, and it's one of the reasons why I deal now with young men. If they miss out or if they get in, we've actually got to work out how we're going to make you stand out and how we're going to make South Australia go, we are good enough, take our blokes.
You know what, it's a very interesting point. 2 of my favourite sayings, or 2 of the sayings that I use sometimes are, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right. And I think that's an important part. And also the second bit is, and I think it relates to what you're saying, Jenny, is that if you accept second best sometimes more often than not, that's what you're given. And I reckon you're right. I think you have to sell yourself, and it's more than just doing the work. It's letting people know about yourself. And I'm not sure whether that's part of the Australian way, but I think it has to be part of your makeup to take that next step.
Well, I talk about Clark Kent and Superman.
Yeah.
You don't have to be Superman all the time, but when you need to, you've got to step up.
Yeah.
And it's about time, as society, South Australia started stepping up to say, we have people who can not only get people to that level, but our young men deserve a chance, or the women too, because we had very few women drafted as well. And we have much better players that have never been seen, no one knows about, no one promotes them, and in doing so, they get left behind. And it's one of the areas that it devastates people, but we as a state have to start being stronger, and that means saying we have great players and get our crows and power to start believing that they should take some of them.
I wonder whether it goes further than sport though in this state, Jenny.
Oh, I think you're right.
I think it's a whole it's a whole state of mind in in South Australia.
Yeah, SA great, but don't tell anyone.
It's got a secret, You know though, Jen, on that, and I want to move off because we've got too many other questions to ask you, but in the United States, they use their agents. Their agents are so good at selling the player, telling everyone how great they are, and they spread the network. And I know there's more agents in Melbourne and there's more agents in Sydney, but is that part of what needs to happen with these younger kids? Do they need to get people that will represent them better and tell people how good they really are?
Oh, absolutely. And see, even with me, it's a case of going, well, who do I know? Who can you talk to? Because yes, agents, every one of my athletes has a highlight tape. If you do not start first of all, it makes you feel better as an athlete yourself. You see when you do things really well. But if no one knows who you are, you know, like my book's a bit the same. It's got the best knowledge in it, but if you don't market it.
Because here's a page, 223.
Yep.
Good game, bad game. You've had a blinder, you've had a shocker, and now I've had a look through the shocker, and there's a few things there that I can identify with. All right, but what it does, it spells it out nicely for you, easy to understand. I like the 223, so that's a good page.
It's what to do.
Jen, so for the players that missed out, so let's talk about the South Australian kids that missed out right now. What advice would you give to them? Because they've got pre-season, they're disappointed there. Is it all over? I would imagine they're nearly devastated that they haven't got drafted. What's the best things for them moving forward now?
Well, first of all, to sit down and identify, is there anything specific we could do better? So I've got one boy, for instance, had one drafted and one that didn't. The one that didn't, I think, is psychologically incredibly strong. If I was picking someone on just based on what I know with drive and everything, this kid would have got picked. But they don't know about it. They test the beep test, they test all of these things, they test who's this, but I'm going, wow, once they're in the big league, this kid would have stood up. So we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about what was luck, what didn't we know, and now let's put a plan in place for getting it ready for next year. How are we going to get into this SNFL, make sure we dominate there, and actually make sure we've got everything going, ready to go. And I think even schools, like Sacred Heart, some of those schools need to start going, wow, look at how good we do. And if you at the moment you hear about the Sandringham Dragons, for instance, you know, I can name them. I'm from South Australia, and why can I name Victorian teams? I would figure most people wouldn't be able to name South Australian teams. So the blinder shocker, this is a bit like having a shocker. Everyone I have has a rejection folder. Didn't work. What are we going to do? Now, what are we going to do about it? One excuse, two new plans. And so again, it's not luck anymore. It's actually going, how do we do this better? Who can I find? He will be out looking for mentors. He'll be out going to talk to people. And this kid's drive, I'm hoping I talk to you next year, and this one's one of those that people find later. And it's special because we need to make our athletes understanding they've got to do the work, but we have to help them. We have to be bold and tell people they're there.
All right, we have to be bold. You have to watch this show because it's a really good show about South Australian sport. Stay with us. Still more to come.